welcome to LifeNigth. Tonight we're going to be talking about bullying, which is just something I think that everybody goes through at some point in your life, whether you are bullied or if you find yourself as the bully. So tonight we're going to help you try and work through that, give you some ideas, some tools to use to help if you see somebody being bullied, if you're being bullied, some steps that you can take to alleviate that. So last week we talked about human life, right? And how all human life, there we go, okay, sounds good. All human life, every person has dignity, and all life is worth something. So once you realize that you have dignity and self-worth, that you are made in God's image and likeness, you've got to realize that for everyone, not just yourself, but everyone around you has that same dignity, that same self-worth. As Catholics, we're called to protect the dignity of the human person without exception. So we must recognize that bullying is an attack on a human dignity, and therefore we must stand against it to combat the bully and help those that are being bullied. So St. John Paul II said, "Life, especially human life, belongs to God. Whoever attacks human life attacks God's very self." I thought that was such a great quote from him.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay.
What is bullying?
So, for those of you I haven't met, my name is Brennan Lacy. I am the 6th grade boys leader. I was in youth group here, so most of you I do know. But I'm also a freshman at OSU, a member of St. John's. And so I've kind of taken on, the college kind of feel, but I'm still here helping you guys and trying to lead my 6th grade boys closer to God and just help out how I can. So pleasure to speak for you all today. So our first question, what is bullying? And we're going to get more into the definition, but first we have to ask ourselves, in today's world, we see bullying. Can somebody give me an example of what they think of when they first hear bullying? Corbin.
Someone shoving someone on a locker and stealing their lunch.
The locker shove, classic. Miles, what do you think of?
Telling you that you're too small to play football.
Ooh, height, okay? So we have that size difference. We're going to talk about that later, okay? So Corbin's locker shove that he mentioned is kind of the classic bullying scenario. We see it in movies, we see it in TV shows. We also see like the toilet swirly or whatever, like getting your head shoved in the toilet. We see getting shoved like into a locker and all those. So those are like the classic bullying, okay? But do we actually see that happening very often in our schools today? Head nods if you see a lot of like flushing in the toilet. No, I don't think so. I never really saw it when I was here in Stillwater or even in Edmond before that. And so a lot of bullying today is through our words. It's through our, we'll talk a little bit about cyberbullying and social media and the internet and what that has to do with it. And so, in today's world, we kind of joke about bullying. And it's become more of a something that we're like, no, I'm not bullying them. It's just a joke, But I was talking to somebody earlier, and I was like, bullying is always in the eyes of the person that is getting attacked. So if you think you aren't bullying, it doesn't really matter. If the person that's getting bullied feels threatened, feels violated, feels like they are getting bullied, then it's bullying. So you always have to have that mindset. If you are saying unkind things, if you're doing unkind things, if you're posting mean things, whatever it is, you have to think about how that's going to affect them and not how it looks to you, because perceptions are very different for different people. Okay, so our first question, is bullying a sin? What do we think?
Yes.
Is bullying a sin?
Yes.
Yes, bullying is a sin. Because just like we talked about with the dignity of the human person, we are downgrading and giving less worth to a person when we start to bully them. And we put them in this sort of box and give them a worth, okay? A worth that is less than ours or makes them feel less than us, okay? And we use the violence through our words or through our actions, and we start to hurt other people, which again is giving them that lessening of their worth, okay? And we're starting to turn away from God in that, thus committing a sin, okay? So bullying, whether you think you are bullying or whether you don't, can be a sin, okay? So then, oh, what? Can you, yeah, thanks, sorry. So Jesus gave us 2 great commandments, okay? What were they? The 2 great commandments.
Love thy neighbor.
That's one of them? Yes. Tommy?
And love God.
Love God and love thy neighbor as you love, as you would like to be loved. Okay, so love one another. And then we heard in today's gospel, okay? Today's gospel talked about, separating the lamb from the sheep, and Jesus talking about how we treat the least of others is how we treat him. So if we see somebody hungry, and if we feed them, or thirsty, or naked, and we clothe them, or in prison, or sick, okay? All these different things. And then we talked about the shepherd. The shepherd tends his flock and goes after the lost one and heals the injured, okay? All these things, talking about God, okay? Matthew 25, it talks about that how we treat the least of others is how we are treating Jesus himself. And so when we bully, when we treat somebody less than us, it's truly how we're treating God and how we're treating Jesus Christ, okay, and his people. So think about that whenever you are saying something mean, whenever you're posting something, whatever, okay? Because if you're getting bullied and harassed, and they don't know what to do, they don't know how to get help or whatever, then if you're a bystander, okay, say you're watching, and I think that happens more often than us being bullied or us being the bully, is we are more often bystanders of somebody getting bullied. And usually that also turns on us. We are guilty in that way for not taking a stand. We see one of the Lord's sheep, one of the Lord's people getting their worth lessened, and we don't fight for that, okay? So we have to be willing to take a stand and to give worth to that person. So I'm just going to talk briefly about my personal story with bullying. I grew up in Edmond for 14 years of my life. So I was born in Edmond, and I went there until 8th grade. I moved here in 9th grade year. And if you guys don't know, I'm a cantor at the church, okay? So I sing. Singing has always been a big thing in my life. I've done it since, just forever. I really have. And I did plays a lot more in middle school, so I did the musicals and the plays. And there are certain names that get thrown around with guys that do those sorts of things, okay? And I'm just going to let you think about that. And I got called a lot of names in middle school for my singing and for my acting and for what I did. And it affected me a little bit, but it wasn't too bad because there were some other guys that did it that also got made fun of, and so we just kind of forgot about it. But my 8th grade year, I was in the cafeteria line. I remember it very, very vividly. I was in the cafeteria line, and there was a kid behind me that had always been just a jerk and always said mean stuff. And I don't really want to say it because it's vastly inappropriate. But he made a very rude joke, and it cut deep. Let's just say that. It cut really deep. And it's still, to this day, is one of the hardest moments of my life. It affected my outlook for the rest of that year. And it put me in a really dark place, as you can tell with a lot of people that are bullied. And we're going to talk about what people that get bullied or people that see bullying, how they can handle this situation. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about what I did. But eventually, my mom found out about it. And when we're bullied, something happens inside of us. We're scared to share. It's like we talked about, we just feel less than. So it's hard to tell other people. It's hard telling you all now. I don't like talking about it very often. And so when my mom found out and she came home and said, hey, your counselor told me that you're getting bullied, it was really embarrassing. And I was like, okay, yeah. And I tried to play it off cool, and I was like, no, it was just a joke, Mom. No, it was fine. And she really started to pry in like a mom can do. And we got to the bottom and we talked about it. And eventually we moved to Stillwater because of it. My bullying was actually one of the main reasons that we decided to pack up, and it was really hard then too to make my brother move because of it, make my mom move, me have to move because of it, but it was eventually the course of action. I just wanted a fresh start. I didn't want the labels, I didn't want the name calling, I didn't want any of it, and I just wanted to start over. So that's just a quick little blurb about my experience, and I'll talk a little bit more about how I handled it later. But then we talk about bullying as aggressive behavior. And so when we think of aggressive behavior, you're thinking physical, and you're thinking like pounding into somebody, like shoving them, whatever. But aggressive behavior is really something that's done over and over again, and you get more aggressive with it. And I don't want to say they get better at bullying, but it's kind of what it is. They get more comfortable in it, and they get just a little bit, they just latch on a little bit more because they've done it over and over again. And so it has this potential to be done repeatedly with worse and worse effects on the person that it's getting done to. So whether that's physically, emotionally, verbally, mentally, however that person is getting affected, it becomes worse and worse as the person does it over and over again. Then we talk about this unequal power, and what Miles said was a great example. Miles mentioned how he gets, well, not he, but you can get bullied because you're small. You're a small kid and you can't get on the football team, right? Okay? And so that's unequal power, is if somebody's shorter than you, if somebody's smaller than you, if somebody's younger than you, we hear like at high schools that the freshmen get picked on by the seniors because they're just younger. It's just the unequal power. When people feel like they have power over somebody else because of their height, their weight, their age, whatever, that can lead to bullying and lead to them feeling like they have more worth than the other person. It also comes with like popularity. Popularity is unequal power. If somebody thinks they're more popular than another or thinks they're less popular, can lead to them getting bullied. And then, it's good. Then it's something we talk, I hope you hear about a lot in school. And since we talk so much about it, it's kind of what I mentioned earlier. It kind of becomes something that we play off as something else, something we don't think is really real. And bullying is really one of those things that doesn't have a strict definition. There's not these things that says, this is bullying and this is not. But again, it's how the person that is getting bullied, how they perceive it. And so, since it's something you hear often about in school, it probably is something that's happening, okay? So I'm sure all of us can take on one of these roles, whether it was you were bullied, you were the bully, or you were watching somebody get bullied. And I can say I probably have been all three. I can talk up here about my bully experience, but I don't think it's fair, and I think it's hypocritical to say that I've never been a bully to somebody else. And I don't mean I shoved them into a locker, but I probably have said some hurtful things to another that I still regret and still think about to this day about how that affected them. Okay? So that's something to always think about. Yeah.
Okay, so there are different types, examples of bullying. first one is physical bullying, like what Brennan was talking about, being shoved into a locker, or if you're walking down the hallway in school and somebody walks up and takes your books and just shoves them to the ground. I mean, that is a physical type of bullying. The next type is verbal bullying, and this is kind of where you just start talking bad about somebody. You can even call them names to their face, or talking to like other people, talking to them about somebody verbally and abusing them and saying really nasty things about them that just cuts to their soul, their dignity. The third is emotional intimidation. It's kind of between the other two. It's kind of a mix between physical and verbal. So it's you can be excluded. Say there's a birthday party and every one of your friends is invited but you, and you find out about it. They send you pictures from there. That's another form of bullying. That's emotional bullying, because it really cuts to you. It gets to you because everyone else is invited, and they're sending you pictures of how much fun they're having while you're sitting at home because you weren't invited. You were excluded deliberately. There's racist bullying. That kind of speaks for itself, but it's you bully somebody by making fun of them because of their race, bullying them because they are not of the same race as you. Then there's there's sexual bullying, where you make inappropriate comments, kind of like what happened to Brennan, and it really gets to the person. Then the last one is cyberbullying, and actually cyberbullying has gone up. It has increased by 50% in the last 10 years. And I know that's because everyone's got cell phones, everyone's got computers. There's so much out there that we can do using the web. That people are able to text each other. So I put an example of a picture here. These girls just texting nasty things, hurtful things to another person, bullying them over the internet. It's become more frequent, and it's easier because you're not face-to-face having to say these things. So it's kind of you can kind of hide behind your phone and be the bully behind that. So, am I doing? Okay, so then there's effects of bullying. So kids that are bullied, they end up having a lot of problems. There's depression and anxiety. There's health complaints. Kids start complaining that they're not feeling well because they don't want to go to school just because it's happening at school. Their academic achievement declines. Like grades start plummeting because they don't care about doing their grades because they're scared of what somebody's going to say about them. Like if they're smart and you get made fun of because you're smart, then you're going to start not doing that because you don't want that attention brought on you. Then there's social isolation. There's kids that are bullied that want to just be alone, that it's better for them to just sit in the corner by themselves than have to be around other people that may say things that are hurtful to them. And then there's the kids who are the bullies. They also have effects. A lot of the statistics show that kids who bully others later in life suffer, they have alcohol and drug addictions. They get into more fights at school. And they have criminal convictions as they get older, not just traffic problems, and then become abusive to their partners. And so there's things that happen to everyone. Everyone that is affected by bullying has different things that go towards that hurts them. People that watch bullies happen, those people too have the same kind of effect because they see it happening but don't step in, and so they still feel the same depressive. They start feeling for the person even though they don't have, they're not strong enough to stand up for that person. So it does affect everyone. Then there's the statistics. 1 out of every 4 students, this is, they were in grades 4 through 8, have reported, actually just, sorry, back up. 90% of students in grades 4 through 8 have reported being harassed or bullied. 1 in 4, 12-year-olds to 18-year-olds has been reported being bullied during the school year. That's a lot of kids. I mean, if you look around here, how many do we have here, like 30? I mean, you think 1 out of every 4 of you has probably had some type of bullying. Either you were the bullier, or you've been bullied, or you've witnessed bullying in your school or sports or anything else that you do. The most commonly reported type of bullying is verbal harassment. Now that also goes with cyberbullying because you can talk through your phones and laptops, computers, anything like that. So, but that is the most commonly reported type. Cyberbullying has also, like I said, it's doubled in the last 10 years. Each month, there are 282,000 students who are physically assaulted in some way in secondary schools throughout the United States. That's a lot of kids being assaulted, bullied in schools. Over 10% of students who drop out of school do so because they're being bullied repeatedly. There's also, where's that other one? School shootings. School shootings, nearly 75% of school shootings have been linked to somebody being harassed or bullied in school. And 64% of students who are bullied, just like Brennan, do not report it. It's usually found out, but it's found out sometimes too late. And so we're going to kind of tell you what to do about bullying.
All right. So, we always have to remember what's going on with the bully because it's very easy to place them into this. You are guilty. You're done. So we have to remember what's going on inside of them, and usually it's something, some problem at home. Something is going on inside of them that's causing them to bully. And we only really know 10% of their story, and that's what we see. So they're hurting. They're hurting out of their own pain. And we see that these bullies really just want people to feel that same pain, which it really is not fun. But it's kind of understandable, you know? Somebody's going through a really hard time, and maybe they just want another person to understand what they're going through. I think everybody wants to feel sympathy in that way. And it's going about it the completely wrong way, but we do all have a desire for people to understand our emotions and our hurts and our pains. And so that's when they begin to feel insecure. And then they want other people to feel insecure, and it's just a vicious cycle like that. But then also it could just be, you know, they're wanting to fit into a crowd, they're wanting to be funny for their friends, whatever it is, and that can also be a reason. So if you're acting like a bully, you have to stop and think about where that's coming from. Whether it's, you know, a problem at home, whether you aren't doing good in school, you are, you know, you made a bad decision with your friends and you are regretting it. A lot of those can lead to the problems we see with bullies. But then you have to take a step back and you have to remember that these emotions, you shouldn't have to put them onto somebody else. And it's not going to solve your problem, as we just saw with these effects of bullying. It's not going to help. You are more likely to abuse alcohol and drugs. You're more likely to become depressed yourself, or criminal records. You know, the list goes on and on. So that's when you have to reach out to a trusted adult for help with your problems, for help understanding where these emotions are coming from if you don't know. So before you do anything like bullying or whatever, try and talk to somebody about it. Then, if you're just doing it to fit in or to make people laugh or whatever, you have to think about who you're hanging around and why you're wanting to fit in with those type of people. If the people that you are, you know, trying to get in a group with bully other people, is that really the best group to be hanging out with? And at the time, it can seem like it is, okay? Middle school is a hard age. Nobody really loves middle school, okay? Everybody does not have the best time in middle school, and it comes with a lot of social choices, a lot of friend choices, and just making decisions that are difficult to make at that age. So when trying to figure out your types of friends, consider what they're saying about other people, how they're treating other people, and if that's really what you want to be doing as well. I have a clicker, don't I? All right. Okay. So now, if you are if you are being bullied, if you're being bullied, it's best not to give that person an emotional reaction, which luckily I did not in my case. I just kind of ignored him, which really isn't great either. You really shouldn't ignore the bully either, because it just kind of gives them a little bit more power. But you just need to, address them calmly and just look confident in yourself and that they can't tear you down, which can be really hard sometimes. But you just have to be confident and show them that you really don't care what they're saying. So then if you're being bullied online, okay, this is one of the hardest ways to kind of escape. And it seems so easy because you just click it away. You just have to block them, right? But it can be difficult. So, I don't know how to encourage you to do that, but just block the person, log off, maybe delete the social media account together if it's really bringing you that much pain. And then tell some adult immediately, whether it be your parents or a teacher or whoever, and show them what that person was doing, not so much to get them in trouble, but just to, save other people. Because, if you block them, then chances are they're going to try and bully another person or send messages to another person or whatever. So in the Gospel of John, Jesus teaches his disciples a very, very important lesson when they're faced with the temptation to bully or to hurt other people. So Jesus decides to approach the situation in an unlikely manner. So he says that the Pharisees said to him, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the very act of committing adultery. Now in the law, Moses commanded us to stone such a woman. So what do you say?" They said this to test him so that they could have some charge to bring against him. And Jesus bent down and began to write on the ground with his finger. But when they continued asking him, he straightened up and said to them, "Let the one among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." Okay? So what it's saying is that this person with sin, okay, this person, whether it be the bully or the person being bullied, but let's take the bully, for example, okay? Sometimes we're very quick to condemn, and we're quick to judge them for bullying another person. And sometimes, I might say it, but schools don't handle it in the best way possible, and they'll just put him in detention or something, rather than really trying to find out what the root problem is of that bullying. And so that's what Jesus is saying, is let the first among you, who is without sin, cast the first stone. And so none of us, I don't think any of us can say, like I mentioned earlier, can say that we have not witnessed a bullying or been a bully to another person. And so none of us can truly condemn that person for being a bully, but we have to try and understand where they're coming from. So, it's a little bit different than adultery. Bullying is a little bit different than adultery, but we still feel that constant pressure to join in went into other forms of bullying. And so again, the crowd was just going to do what the Pharisees said. The Pharisees said, "Cast the stone," and the crowd was just going to go with it. And so it's kind of that thing where we have to see the crowd. Like, are we really going to stone a person? Are we really going to bully another person just because somebody else told me I should? Okay? It's very easy to fall into that peer pressure. Very easy. I've done it. I've fallen into the peer pressure just because my friends say something about a person to just go along with it instead of actively defending the person who doesn't have a voice in that situation. Okay? So in the classroom, outside of the classroom, extracurricular activities, pay attention to the friends that you're hanging out with and what they're saying. Okay? So even though we haven't committed the same sin as the bully or anything like that, none of us have that clean slate to be able to judge them. So instead of fueling the fires of hate and ridicule, Christ challenges us to stand up against the evil that tempts us to tear down others for our own enjoyment. Okay? He actively tells us to go outside of the social norm and to try and defend the person that is getting bullied. Okay? His own pain and suffering and eventual death, he endured extreme bullying, okay, with the scourging and with the crowning of thorns, and what the crowd was saying to do to him and calling him. Okay, can you just imagine what he was getting yelled at as he was walking through the streets carrying his cross? Imagine the words that people were saying about him and what he was hearing about himself. Okay, but he still endured all of that for all of the people around him, all of those people that were calling him the names, and the people that whipped him, the people that stuck the crown of thorns on his head. Okay, for the Pharisees that were the ones that were trying to get this all started, all of this, he publicly humbled himself and suffered humility, was stripped of his garments, spit on, everything, to be able to publicly display himself on the cross. And through that torture, he's continued to love his enemies. And he knew that they did not fully understand their actions. They didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know that they were really crucifying the Son of Christ. And they were lacking God's love in their hearts and in their lives. And instead of fighting back or tearing them down or smiting them all, he did the exact opposite and forgave them and died upon the cross for them. So, with the Sermon on the Mount, the famous Sermon on the Mount, Christ gives hope to all of us who suffer. And he says, "Blessed are those who are persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." So all of us that are bullied, maybe you are bullied for, your faith background. I don't know. That it's kind of a hope. For yours is the kingdom of heaven. You will be richly blessed, even with the persecution and the emotional baggage that you carry. And then, blessed are you when they insult you and persecute you and utter every kind of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward will be great in heaven. So no matter how you look at it, bullying is really a difficult reality for everybody involved, especially for those in our middle school youth group, because like I said, it's just a hard time for everybody. And we have to remember to leave the judging of others to God, and for us to love others, just as Jesus told us to do, with the great commandment to love God and to love others. So no good can ever come out of bullying, even when you're thinking it's a joke, even when you're thinking, oh, it's one of my best friends. They know I don't mean it. Think about what's really happening, and think about what you're really saying and how that person can go home and feel. Because even if it's your best friend, words stick, okay? Even joking words can stick and carry with them for a while. So it's never going to end. This bullying cycle in our schools is never going to end until everybody actively stops being mean to one another and stands up against bullying. If you see bullying happening, standing up against it. Or if you're being bullied, standing up and taking that courageous posture, stance, and trying to explain to that bullying what they're really doing, okay? If you've bullied someone else, make a change in your life. I hope you already have, but if you haven't, and if you continue to bully, make a change in your life. Go to reconciliation, go to confession, and talk to the priest about it. Maybe they can help you understand where it's coming from. And try and seek forgiveness from God for the way you treated his children, okay? Because all of us are his sons and daughters. Ask the Lord to help you see others through his eyes and see them as your brothers and sisters. And remember, Jesus said that we are to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. And you may be asking the question that another man asked Jesus, who is your neighbor? Okay, it could be your best friend, it could be your literal neighbor, okay? But look around at all the pictures in the room. Oh, we don't have pictures,
People,
sorry.
that meant people.
Oh, people, look at all the people in the room. Everyone look around, okay, right now, look around. Look at somebody's eyeballs, okay? And look at people And you may not recognize their faces. You might not know one another, okay? But each face represents a member of the family of God, a beloved son or daughter of God, okay? And one of your brothers and sisters, okay? Just as real as your brother, your biological brother and sister, just as real, but everlasting and eternal, a brother and sister in Christ, okay? And let us learn to treat each other with the utmost respect that the Lord shows us in his gospel and tells us to act. Oh, it's my video. Okay, real quick, I'm going to finish my story. We talked about how to handle bullying a little bit. So I had a very, very close teacher who, she taught literacy, which I don't think you all have in Stillwater, but literacy is like extra reading. It's like a reading class, okay? So she taught literacy my 8th grade year. She was my literacy teacher. Her name was Miss Reagan. And she was really not much older than I was. She was probably in her 20s. And we just got along very, very well. Not really as teacher-student, but just kind of as friends. And I told her that what the kid had said, and I thought she was going to be cool about it, and I thought she was going to be like, she was just going to help me out, me and her. And she was like, okay, we're going to the counselor. And she literally took me by the hand, and we walked down to the counselor, and I was so mad the whole way. And I was like, I wanted to tell you something, and you're seriously doing this. Why are you doing this to me? I had trust in you. Like, I don't want this kid to get in trouble. I was feeling bad for the kid that was bullying me. I was like, I don't want him in trouble. I don't want all this to happen. Well, we got down to the counselor. She made me fill out a form. It was awful. But I filled out a form there in the office. They eventually called me down the next day with the kid, and we talked about it. And he actually got suspended from school because then some other kids came up and complained. Anyways, so while it seems hard to tell a person, it needs to happen because you don't know what that bully is doing to other people. And if you're the one to speak up, it can have huge effects on other kids, helping them be able to come through that anxiety and depression, lower grades, whatever that we talked about with the effects. You can have an amazing impact on another person's life if you just speak up. And I know we talk about don't be a tattletale, don't be a snitch, don't blah, 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 okay? Sometimes you just have to. And don't look at it as getting the other person in trouble, but really helping them come out of a state of sin and fall out of a state of darkness and that place that's away from God, because really they are. They're corrupted by sin and that bullying, and you're trying to help them come into the light, okay? Or at least I hope that's what you're doing. You're not trying to get them in trouble. You're trying to get them to come back into Jesus' light and into Christ's light. We're going to watch this bullying real quick of an example of a girl speaking up against her friends. I thought it was a really good video. Oh, no. Can you escape that? You're good, you're good. No problem. Maybe. All right, here we go. Can anyone see that? We need to hit the lights.
Making sure you're up. 5 more minutes.
Amanda, stop. She's done nothing to you. Get out of here. Go. I'm sorry. Thank you.
All right, so be someone's hero. This week, this month, this year, your life, be somebody's hero. Stand up. And my prayer for you is that you will, going forward, that you understand that bullying can be anything, okay? It's not your opinion of what bullying it is, but everyone has a different view of it. So stand up when you know something's wrong.
Thanks, Brennan. Okay, so tonight we did go a little long, so we only have about 15 minutes to get into small groups. But we are going to still break up into small groups because I think it's important for you to talk about it with your peers. We wanted to go through a lot, so we cover a lot of stuff tonight, but it is a very important topic, and I hope that you really remember what we talked about. And I'm here. If you need something, if you're being bullied, if you're the bully, come to me. Call me up. I have my cell phone. You can call me at any time, and I will help you. We'll help you get the help that you need, whether you need help to stop bullying, or if you've seen somebody else being bullied, or you are being bullied. It's not. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for you because I love you and I want everyone here to be safe. So, with that being said, we're going to break up.